The story I'm about to tell, you might want to think about really small children not watching this. Some people get scared. Oh, I've even told this to fifth graders who find it scary. And if your child is young enough and has a vivid imagination, like I did when I was a little child, this might not be the story for them yet. There are many versions of this story, and this is one of my favorite. I learned it from Virginia Hamilton's The People Could Fly, a wonderful book, which, if you have children and you don't have this book in your home, you should purchase it. The Peculiar Such Thing. Away off in the high piney woods, there was this fella who lived all alone in a log cabin he had built himself, and he made a stone fireplace too, with a stone chimney coming up out of it. Now each and every night that fellow would sit by his stone fireplace and cook and eat his supper. One night when he was eating his supper, out of the corner of his eye he saw something come creeping and crawling into his cabin. It was the most peculiar looking such thing that fella had ever seen, and it had a great big long tail too. Now, when that fellow saw that peculiar such thing with its great big long tail, he reached up to a peg on a wall where he had a hatchet hanging, and with a swishety swoop, he cut that thing's tail clean off. Well, with its tail gone, that thing just crept back out however it came in. And that fella, like he had no sense at all, he took that tail and cooked it and ate it. It was delicious. Then he just went to bed. But he hadn't been sleeping for too long when something scritching and scratching at his cabin door woke him up. It sounded mighty like a cat. Then it called out, "Taily-po! Taily-po! Give me back my taily-po!" Now the fella did have some dogs living with him. The first and biggest one, that one was named Best. Second one down in size, he called All Right. And the little runt, that one was called Fair. So he calls his dogs, "You dogs, get!" Those dogs tore out after that peculiar such thing so fast they like to bust their own tails off, chased it away off down a fur piece. Then that fella, he just went back to bed. But he hadn't been sleeping for too long when he was waked up again by something scritching and scratching at his cabin windows. And then it called out, "Taily-po! Taily-po! Give me back my taily-po!" He calls his dogs again, "You Best! You All Right! And you Fair! Sick!" They tore out again after that peculiar such thing and chased it away off down into a swampy hollow at the bottom of the hill where the fellow's cabin was. Well then, he just went back to bed again. I couldn't have, but he did. I'd been sleeping a little while, but then something calling from down in that swampy hollow woke him up. It said, "I know you got it. You know I know. Now give me back my taily-po." The fella called his dogs again, but this time they didn't come. Must have been that peculiar such thing caught 'em and ate 'em down there in that swampy hollow. He tastes the first one, says, "That one's best. Them other two ain't but all right and fair." Now he'd been sleeping for a while. Don't know how he got back to bed, but somehow he did. and it was along toward dawn when he was waked up again. This time it was scritching and scratching across the roof of his cabin. Well, without his dogs there, what was he supposed to do? He just pulled the covers up over his head and waited. Then he heard it coming. Scritch, scratch, up the outside of the chimney. Scritch, scratch. It calls down. Taily-po! Taily-po! Give me back my taily-po! Well, he just lay there and shivered, waiting. It went scritch, scratch down inside of the chimney. Scritch, scratch into the stone-built fireplace. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch across the floor of his cabin. Then the scritching and scratching stopped. He pulled the covers down and looked at the foot of his bed. There it was. It had sharp, needly teeth, too, and red, glowing eyes. It said, "Give me back my taily-po!" He was so scared he lost the power of speech. He pulled the covers back over his head and sat there and trembled. Then finally he got his speech back all right. He says, I hasn't got it. I hasn't got your taily-po." "Yes, you has," it says. Then it dove under the covers and scritched and scratched and scritched and scratched until it tore that fella's insides clean out. They say it got its taily-po back. Now, with the fella gone, that cabin just fell to ruin. Logs all rotted, even the stones of the foundation fell apart. Nothing left of it. But they say, if you go up on that hill above that hollow, and the moon is shining bright, and the breeze is just so, you can still hear it calling, "Taily-po, taily-po," and then it do just die away, like it never even ever was.